The stars shone brightly against the endless black of space as Dr. Olivia Wright stared through the observation deck of the Arcturus Science Academy. She often came here to think when her research hit a wall. The vast emptiness calmed her mind and reminded her of why she became an archaeologist in the first place. She wanted to discover the truth about where her people came from. According to official Federation history, humans had always lived on Arcturus Prime and its colonies. But the old stories told a different tale. They spoke of a distant blue world, called Earth, where humanity was born. Most people treated these stories as myths, like children's bedtime tales, not Olivia. She believed Earth was real, and she was determined to prove it. The Academy had given her one last chance to find evidence before cutting her funding. Her latest expedition to the ruins on Epsilon 4 was her final hope. Olivia sighed and turned away from the stars. She needed to get back to her lab and prepare for tomorrow's departure. The halls of the Academy were quiet this late in the evening. Her footsteps echoed as she walked past the empty offices and classrooms. When she reached her lab, she found her research assistant Daniel Garcia still working despite the late hour. "You should get some sleep," Olivia said as she entered the lab. "We leave early tomorrow." Daniel looked up from his workstation and smiled. "Just double-checking our equipment list. I don't want to get all the way to Epsilon 4 and realize we forgot something important." Olivia appreciated his dedication. Daniel was one of the few people who didn't think her research was a waste of time. "Any messages while I was out?" "She asked." Admiral Fowler called. Daniel replied. "He wanted to confirm that the Horizon will be ready for our departure at 0600 hours. Olivia nodded. She was lucky to have Admiral Fowler's support. As commander of the exploration fleet, he had the authority to assign ships for research missions. Without him, she would never have gotten approval to visit Epsilon 4 again. Most of the Federation Council thought she was chasing fairy tales. They believe humans evolved naturally on Arcturus Prime, despite clear evidence that their bodies weren't perfectly adapted to the planet's environment. Humans needed special supplements to stay healthy on Arcturus. That suggested they came from somewhere else originally. The next morning came quickly. Olivia and Daniel boarded the survey vessel Horizon just before departure. The ship was small but well-equipped for archaeological expeditions. Captain LeVar Peterson greeted them as they arrived on the bridge. "Dr. Wright, Mr. Garcia, welcome." "Aboard," she said. "We're on schedule for departure. The journey to Epsilon 4 will take 3 days at standard speed." "Thank you, Captain," Olivia replied. "We appreciate the exploration fleet's support for this mission." Captain Peterson nodded politely, but Olivia could see the doubt in her eyes. Everyone thought this expedition would end like all the others, with no solid proof of Earth's existence. Olivia was determined to prove them wrong. The journey passed quickly as Olivia and Daniel reviewed their research and prepared their equipment. Epsilon 4 was one of the oldest known colony sites in the Federation. Most of its ancient ruins had already been studied extensively, but Olivia had identified a promising location that previous teams had overlooked. It was a small structure half buried in the side of a mountain, far from the main settlement ruins. When they finally arrived at Epsilon 4, Olivia could barely contain her excitement. The planet looked barren and lifeless from orbit, its surface a mix of rocky deserts and shallow seas. Once the Horizon established a stable orbit, Olivia, Daniel, and 2 security officers took a shuttle down to the surface. The dig site was exactly as Olivia remembered it from her previous visit. The entrance to the buried structure was barely visible, just a small opening in the mountainside. The team set up their equipment and began clearing the entrance to make it wider. "What makes you think we'll find anything different this time?" asked Officer Sam Klein, one of the security personnel. "Last time we focused on the main chamber," Olivia explained as she worked. "But I noticed unusual energy readings coming from deeper inside. The Federation's initial survey team missed it because they weren't looking for technology from outside the Arcturus system. By midday, they had cleared enough rubble to enter the structure safely. The air inside was stale but breathable. Olivia led the way, following the path they had cleared during her previous expedition. The main chamber was just as they had left it, with ancient computer terminals and storage units lining the walls. But this time, Olivia headed straight for the back wall where she had detected the strange energy readings. "Help me move this panel," she told Daniel, pointing to a section of the wall that looked slightly different from the rest. Together, they carefully removed the wall panel, revealing a hidden compartment behind it. Inside was a small device unlike anything Olivia had seen before. It was roughly spherical, with intricate markings covering its surface. A soft blue light pulsed from its center. "What is it?" Daniel asked, his voice hushed with awe. "I'm not." "Sure," Olivia said as she carefully lifted the device from its hiding place. "But it's still active after all these centuries." "That's amazing." Back aboard the Horizon, Olivia and the ship's science officer, Ethan Lee, examined the mysterious device in the research lab. After hours of careful study, they made a breakthrough. "It's a navigational device," Ethan announced. "These markings are star coordinates." Olivia's heart raced. "Coordinates to where?" "Somewhere far beyond Federation space," Ethan said. "And look at these manufacturing markings. They don't match any known civilization, but the linguistic patterns are similar to ancient Arcturian root languages." "Because they're not Arcturian at all," Olivia whispered. "They're Earth languages, the original human languages." When they reported their findings to Admiral Fowler, he was intrigued enough to grant them an extended mission. "Follow these coordinates," he told them. "Find what's out there, Doctor. Just don't expect to find fairy tales." As the Horizon prepared to jump beyond known space, Olivia stood at the observation deck once more. The stars seemed different now, full of possibility rather than mystery. One of those distant points of light might be the sun that warmed humanity's true homeworld. "What if Earth isn't just a legend?" she whispered to herself as the stars stretched into streaks of light around them. The journey beyond known space took several weeks. Olivia spent most of her time studying the ancient navigational device, trying to learn more about its origins. The more she examined it, the more convinced she became that it was created by their ancestors to preserve the location of Earth. Daniel helped her analyze the strange markings covering its surface. Some of them resembled letters from old Arcturian texts, but with subtle differences that suggested they were even older. Captain Peterson kept the crew focused on their mission despite the uncertainty of what lay ahead. Many were nervous about traveling so far from Federation space. No survey vessel had ever ventured this deep into the unknown. The Horizon finally reached the coordinates stored in the device. The ship emerged from hyperspace near a yellow star with 8 planets orbiting it. Everyone on the bridge fell silent as they took in the view on the main screen. The third planet from the star was unmistakably blue. Olivia's hands trembled as she stepped closer to the screen. Could it really be Earth? After all these years of searching, had she finally found humanity's legendary homeworld? "Scan the planet," Captain Peterson ordered, breaking the silence. Science Officer Ethan Lee quickly complied. "Atmospheric composition shows nitrogen, oxygen, and trace elements consistent with our biological requirements. The planet has large oceans of liquid water and significant landmass. And Captain, I'm detecting artificial satellites in orbit and, electromagnetic transmissions emanating from the surface." "Someone lives there," Captain Peterson said, turning to Olivia. "The question is, are they related to us, or is this a remarkable coincidence?" "There's only one way to find out," Olivia replied. "We need to monitor those transmissions and learn more about the inhabitants." Captain Peterson nodded. "Agreed, but we'll maintain our distance for now. I don't want to alarm whoever lives down there until we know more about them." The Horizon took up position behind one of the planet's small moons to avoid detection. From there, they began collecting and analyzing the transmissions coming from the planet. Ethan worked with Olivia and Daniel to decipher the languages being broadcast. It was painstaking work, but the similarities to ancient Arcturian dialects were undeniable. After weeks of study, they were able to understand much of what they heard. The planet was indeed called Earth, and it was inhabited by humans who had never left their home system. They're technologically advanced, Ethan reported during a briefing with the captain, but still far behind us. They've only recently begun serious space exploration, mostly limited to their own system. They have conflicts between different regions of their planet, environmental challenges, and resource limitations. Just like the old stories about Earth before the Great Exodus, Olivia added. Our ancestors must have left during a time of crisis, planning to return when conditions improved. But something went wrong, and the knowledge of Earth's location was lost over time. Captain Peterson considered this information carefully. We need to decide our next move. Do we make contact, or do we return to the Federation with our findings? We should make contact, Olivia said without hesitation. This is what we came for. These could be our long-lost relatives. We need to know for sure. After much discussion, Captain Peterson agreed to move the Horizon into a more visible orbit around Earth. As expected, they were quickly detected by Earth's monitoring systems. Panic erupted on the planet below as news of the alien ship spread. The Horizon received a transmission from a unified planetary defense council. This is General William Carter of Earth Unified Command, a stern voice announced. Identify yourselves and state your intentions. The words sent shockwaves through. The Horizon's crew, Earth, the name spoken by someone who actually lived there. Not a myth or legend, but a real place with real people. Captain Peterson looked to Olivia. This is your discovery, Doctor. Would you like to respond? Olivia nodded, her heart racing as she stepped up to the communications station. She took a deep breath and spoke clearly. This is Dr. Olivia Wright of the Arcturus Federation survey vessel Horizon. We come in peace. We believe we may be your long-lost children, returning home after 2 millennia among the stars. There was a long silence after her message was sent. The entire bridge crew waited anxiously for a response. When it finally came, General Carter's voice sounded cautious but curious. That's a significant claim, Dr. Wright. We have no record of sending colonists to other star systems capable of establishing what you call the Arcturus Federation. Most of your records from that era may have been lost, Olivia replied. Our histories tell of a great exodus approximately 2,000 years ago, when our ancestors fled Earth in colony ships. We've long considered Earth to be just a legend, but the similarities between our peoples are too great to ignore. We request permission to send a small team to meet with your leaders and share information. Another long pause followed. The tension on the bridge was palpable as they waited for Earth's decision. Finally, General Carter responded. We will allow a small delegation to land at a neutral facility. Coordinates are being transmitted now. You will be met by representatives of Earth Unified Command. Any aggressive actions will be met with immediate response. Understood, Captain Peterson replied. We assure you our intentions are peaceful. After the communication ended, Captain Peterson turned to Olivia. Congratulations, Doctor. You've just made the most significant discovery in Federation history. Now comes the hard part, proving that we really are descended from Earth humans. Olivia nodded, still processing the reality of what was happening. I'll lead the delegation. With your permission. Daniel should come too, and perhaps Ethan for his scientific expertise. I'll join you as well, Captain Peterson said. This is too important to delegate entirely. We'll depart for the surface in 6 hours. That should give Earth's leaders time to prepare and us time to get ready. As Olivia returned to her quarters to prepare for the historic meeting, she could hardly believe that her lifelong quest had actually succeeded. Earth wasn't just a legend. It was real, as she was about to walk on its surface. The implications were enormous, not just for her personally, but for the entire Federation. Everything they thought they knew about their history was about to change. The shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere with Olivia, Captain Peterson, Daniel, and Ethan on board. Olivia pressed her face to the window, watching the blue sky give way to clouds and then to a landscape of mountains, forests, and cities below. The sight brought tears to her eyes. She had dreamed of this moment her entire career. The Earth was not just real, but alive and beautiful, more vibrant than any colony world she had ever visited. The shuttle landed at a facility in a place called Geneva, a neutral location where world leaders had gathered to meet the visitors from the stars. Security was tight, with armed guards surrounding the landing pad. Olivia understood their caution. From Earth's perspective, they were aliens arriving in an advanced spaceship. The delegation from the horizon stepped out into Earth sunlight for the first time. Olivia immediately noticed the difference in how it felt on her skin compared to Arcturus Prime's sun. It was somehow more familiar, as if her body recognized it on a genetic level. The gravity, too, felt just right, neither too heavy nor too light. A group of humans in formal attire approached them. At their head was a woman with silver-streaked dark hair and a commanding presence. "Welcome to Earth," she said with a cautious smile. "I am Dr. Susan Phillips, Chief Historian for Earth Unified Command. I have been asked to be your primary contact during this historic meeting." Olivia stepped forward. "Thank you for receiving us, Dr. Phillips. I am Dr. Olivia Wright, xenorchaeologist from the Arcturus Federation. This is Captain Lavra Peterson, commander of the survey vessel Horizon, Daniel Garcia, my research assistant, and Ethan Lee, our science officer." They were escorted into a large building where representatives from Earth's major regions waited in a conference room. The tension in the air was palpable as Olivia and her team took their seats. General Carter was there, watching them with sharp eyes that missed nothing. The Earth delegation listened intently as Olivia explained the history of the Arcturus Federation and their long search for evidence of Earth. She showed them images of Federation worlds, the advanced technology they possessed, and the ancient records that had preserved the myth of Earth throughout the centuries. Dr. Phillips then shared Earth's history since the time of what Olivia called the Great Exodus. "Our historical records indicate a colony fleet left our solar system during what we call the Third Resource War," she explained. "They were presumed lost. Most records from that era were destroyed in subsequent conflicts. Earth survived catastrophic climate change, resource wars, and several near-extinction events since then. Humanity unified out of necessity, but we remain cautious of outside threats." "We understand your caution," Captain Peterson replied. "In your position we would feel the same. But we hope to establish that we are not a threat, but rather long-lost relatives returning home." To prove their connection, both sides agreed to genetic testing. Earth scientists took samples from the Federation visitors while Olivia's team provided access to their genetic database containing information on citizens throughout Federation space. The results would take some time to process, so the delegation was provided with comfortable quarters for their stay. Olivia could hardly sleep that night, too excited by being on Earth and anxious about the test results. The next morning, Dr. Phillips called them to a private meeting. Her expression was serious, but her eyes showed wonder. "The results are conclusive," she announced. "Arcturians and Earthlings share 99.7% of their DNA. The differences are attributable to 2,000 years of separate evolution and adaptation. You truly are human, descended from Earth colonists." The news spread quickly among Earth's leadership. Some welcomed it with open arms, seeing the potential benefits of connecting with their advanced descendants. Others viewed the Federation with suspicion, fearing colonial conquest or cultural contamination. The Horizon delegation was granted limited permission to visit certain areas of Earth under escort. To learn more about the planet and its people, for Olivia, the revelations became deeply personal. While exploring Earth's historical database, she found references to the Wright family line among the Colonial Expeditions Science Division. Her ancestors had been part of the original Exodus, preserving scientific knowledge during the journey to the stars. She was literally coming home, completing a circle that had begun 2 millennia ago. Not everyone celebrated this reunion. Federation. Diplomat Ryan Foster, who had joined them from the Horizon for follow-up talks, discovered Earth's military was quietly analyzing Arcturian technology for potential weapons applications. Meanwhile, extremist factions on both sides viewed the other with suspicion. Some Earth groups feared the technologically superior Federation might attempt to reclaim Earth as a colony, while some Arcturians were dismissive of their primitive ancestors. As tensions rose, Olivia and Susan found themselves working together to uncover the truth about the Exodus. They spent long hours in Earth's deepest archives, piecing together fragments of records that had survived the centuries. "Look at this," Susan said one evening, pointing to an ancient digital file they had managed to restore. "It's part of the original mission parameters for the colony ships." Olivia leaned closer, reading the faded text on the screen. What she saw changed everything she thought she knew about Federation history. The Exodus hadn't been a voluntary colonial mission as Federation records suggested. It had been a desperate escape from a dying world, with the colony ships programmed to gradually alter the memories of the refugees to spare them. The trauma of Earth's presumed destruction? They never expected Earth to recover, Susan realized. The coordinates were preserved as a warning, not an invitation to return. "Our entire history is based on altered memories," Olivia whispered, stunned by the revelation. "But why would the original colonists want their descendants to forget Earth?" "Perhaps to spare them the pain," Susan suggested. "Imagine knowing your homeworld and everyone left behind was doomed. It would be a terrible burden to carry." The truth was both heartbreaking and hopeful. Earth had survived against all odds, rebuilding from near destruction. The Federation had thrived among the stars, preserving humanity in a different way. Now they had found each other again, two branches of the same family tree reconnecting after an unimaginably long separation. When Olivia shared their discoveries with Captain Peterson and the others, they agreed that this knowledge needed to be handled carefully. The truth about the Exodus could either bring Earth and the Federation closer together or drive them further apart, depending on how it was presented. They would need time to build trust before the full history could be shared with both worlds. 2 weeks after the first landing on Earth, the situation remained tense but hopeful. Earth and the Federation had established regular communication channels, and small cultural exchange programs were being planned. Captain Peterson had returned to the horizon to coordinate with Admiral Fowler, who had arrived with 2 additional Federation ships in response to the historic discovery. Olivia stayed on Earth with Daniel and Ethan, continuing their research and serving as informal ambassadors. They were housed in a comfortable facility near Geneva, where they met daily with Dr. Phillips and other Earth scientists eager to learn about life among the stars. One evening, as Olivia was reviewing some ancient files with Susan, an urgent message came through from the horizon. Captain Peterson's face appeared on the screen, her expression grave. "Dr. Wright, we need you back on the ship immediately. Admiral Fowler has called an emergency meeting." "What's happened?" Olivia asked, alarmed by the captain's tone. "Our long-range sensors have detected anomalous energy signatures approaching Earth's solar system. The patterns match historical records of something we call the Scourge, a mysterious force that attacked outer Federation colonies centuries ago. We need your historical expertise." Olivia turned to Susan. "Would you come with me? Your knowledge of Earth's history might be valuable." Susan nodded without hesitation. "Let me inform General Carter. He'll want a representative at this meeting." Within hours, Olivia, Susan, and General Carter were aboard the Horizon, joining Admiral Fowler, Captain Peterson, and the ship's senior officers in the main conference room. The Admiral, a tall man with gray hair and a commanding presence, got straight to the point. 3 days ago, our patrol ships detected these energy signatures at the edge of your solar system," he said, displaying a holographic image of strange rippling patterns in space. "We've seen them before, about 400 years ago, when several outer colonies were attacked by what we came to call the Scourge. They destroyed everything in their path, but mysteriously retreated before reaching our core worlds. We never understood why they came or why they left." General Carter studied the display with concern. "What exactly are we dealing with here? Another alien species?" "We don't know for certain," Admiral Fowler admitted. "Our ancestors had limited contact with them. The records describe them as massive ships or possibly living machines that harvest resources from planets, regardless of indigenous life. Whatever drove our ancestors from Earth 2,000 years ago appears to be returning. Captain Peterson added. The implications hit Olivia like a physical blow. The exodus wasn't just to escape a war or environmental disaster, she said, the pieces falling into place. It was to escape these scourge creatures. That's why the coordinates were preserved as a warning. Susan looked thoughtful. Our historical records mention a catastrophic event called the Great Harvesting that occurred around the time of the Exodus. It was always assumed to be part of the resource wars, but what if it was actually this scourge? General Carter stood up, his face grim. How much time do we have, and what kind of threat are we facing? Based on their current trajectory and speed, they'll reach Earth in approximately 3 months, Admiral Fowler replied. As for the threat level, Earth's current defenses would be no match for them. The Federation has more advanced technology, but our forces are spread thin across dozens of colony worlds. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this dire news. Earth and the Federation had just found each other, and now both faced a common enemy that had nearly destroyed humanity once before. After a moment, General Carter spoke. Then we have no choice but to work together. Earth has limited space defenses, but we have resources, manufacturing capabilities, and people willing to fight. If the Federation can provide the technology and expertise, perhaps together we stand a chance. Admiral Fowler nodded in agreement. I'll contact the Federation Council immediately to request additional ships and resources. In the meantime, we should begin upgrading Earth's defenses with our technology. The crisis forced cooperation that might otherwise have taken years to develop. Federation engineers worked alongside Earth scientists to upgrade planetary defense systems. Joint military exercises began, with Earth officers training on Federation vessels while sharing their unique tactical perspectives developed in isolation. Security Chief Alan Mitchell from Earth and Federation Commander Julia Bennett formed an unlikely partnership, combining Earth's resourcefulness with Arcturian technology to develop new, defensive strategies, while the military preparations continued. Olivia and Susan delved deeper into both Earth and Federation historical records, searching for any information about the scourge that might help them understand the enemy. They worked tirelessly, piecing together fragments of information from both worlds. Daniel and Ethan joined their research team, analyzing data from the approaching scourge fleet and comparing it to historical accounts. After weeks of study, they made a breakthrough. Look at this pattern, Olivia said, pointing to a display, showing the movements of the scourge vessels over time. They're not just approaching randomly. They're following a precise mathematical sequence. Susan nodded excitedly. And if we compare it to this star chart from before the Exodus, we can see they visited other star systems first, following the same pattern each time. They're not simply aliens, Ethan realized, studying the data. They're autonomous harvesters, created by a long-vanished civilization, programmed to collect specific resources from life-bearing worlds on a predictable cycle. They didn't follow us from Earth, Olivia said, the truth dawning on her. They're returning on schedule, just as they did 2 millennia ago. Our ancestors fled rather than face extinction, preserving humanity among the stars. Daniel had been quiet, running complex calculations based on their discoveries. If they're following a programmed cycle, that means they have limitations, he said. They're not adapting or evolving. They're simply executing ancient instructions from creators who probably don't exist anymore. This realization gave them hope. If the scourge were machines following programming, perhaps that programming could be disrupted or exploited. Olivia and Susan presented their findings to Admiral Fowler and General Carter, who immediately saw the strategic implications. We need to identify exactly what resources they're programmed to harvest, Admiral Fowler said. That might give us a way to predict their behavior. And if they're autonomous machines rather than a living species, we might be able to interfere with their programming, General Carter added. Every machine has weaknesses. As the Scourge fleet entered the outer reaches of Earth's solar system, humanity prepared for its greatest test. Federation ships took up defensive positions alongside Earth's hastily upgraded defense platforms. On the horizon, now serving as a joint command center, Olivia watched the tactical displays with Susan at her side. They had done everything they could to prepare. Now they would see if the two branches of humanity, reunited after 2,000 years, could together overcome the threat that had once driven them apart. The Scourge entered the solar system with terrifying efficiency. They moved as one. Dozens of massive machines shaped like jagged stars, each nearly the size of a small moon. Earth and Federation ships held their positions, waiting for the enemy to come within range. On the Federation flagship Defender, Admiral Fowler and General Carter coordinated the combined human forces. The first days of the battle were devastating. Despite their preparations, several Earth defense platforms were quickly destroyed. The Scourge harvesters seemed unstoppable, their ancient technology still far more powerful than anything humans had developed. But the Federation ships fared better, their shields and weapons more capable of standing against the attackers. Olivia, Susan, Daniel, and Ethan worked frantically on the horizon, analyzing data from the battle in real time. They watched as Earth and Federation forces tried different tactics against the Scourge. Some worked briefly until the machines adapted. Others failed completely. It was a desperate race against time to find a weakness before the harvesters reached Earth itself. "Look at this," Daniel said suddenly, pointing to a pattern in the data flowing across their screens. "Every time our ships attack, the Scourge respond in exactly the same way. They're not learning or adapting their basic strategies?" Ethan nodded excitedly. "They're following preset protocols? Complex ones, but still predictable if we can identify the patterns." "And here," Susan added, noticing something in the historical records they had been comparing to the current battle, "when the Scourge attacked the outer colonies 400 years ago, they retreated after encountering this specific type of radiation from the Federation ships of that era. Our current ships don't use that technology anymore." Olivia quickly cummed the bridge. "Admiral Fowler, we found something important. The Scourge aren't just machines. They're following programming from a civilization that died millions of years ago. Their adaptation protocols have limits, and they seem vulnerable to specific types of radiation that our older ships used to produce." With this new information, Admiral Fowler and General Carter developed a bold plan. The remaining Earth and Federation forces would lure the Scourge into the gravity well of Jupiter, the largest planet in the solar system. There, specially modified devices would broadcast the radiation the Scourge seemed vulnerable to, along with conflicting command signals designed to confuse their ancient programming. The plan was dangerous. It required several ships to act as bait, drawing the Scourge away from their direct path to Earth. Commander Julia Bennett volunteered to lead this mission, with Security Chief Alan Mitchell joining her. Their ship, a modified Earth vessel equipped with Federation technology, would be the primary target. Olivia watched anxiously from the horizon as the trap was set. Julia and Alan's ship darted between the Scourge harvesters, firing just enough to get their attention but not enough to be destroyed immediately. The massive machines turned to follow, exactly as predicted. Other ships joined in, creating a complex dance that gradually led the entire Scourge fleet toward Jupiter. "They're following the pattern," Daniel said, monitoring the movements. "Just like we predicted." As the Scourge entered Jupiter's massive gravitational field, Federation engineers activated the devices they had positioned around the planet. Strange energy waves pulsed outward, bathing the harvesters in conflicting signals and disruptive radiation. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The Scourge machines began to move erratically, some spinning in place, others colliding with each other. Their precise formation broke apart as their ancient programming tried and failed to resolve the contradictory commands. "It's working," Ethan said in awe. "They're tearing themselves apart trying to follow incompatible instructions." The battle wasn't over yet. Some of the Scourge adapted more quickly than others, breaking free of the trap and resuming their course toward Earth, but they were fewer now, and the combined Earth and Federation fleet was ready for them. Julia and Alan's ship led the counterattack, targeting the specific vulnerabilities they had identified. One by one, the remaining harvesters were disabled or destroyed. 3 days later, it was over. The last Scourge machine had been reduced to floating debris. Its ancient mission finally ended. The cost had been high, with many ships and brave crew members lost in the battle. But Earth was safe, and humanity had prevailed by working together. In the aftermath, both civilizations began the process of reintegration. Earth's resourcefulness and cultural diversity brought new perspectives to the more technologically advanced but culturally homogeneous Federation. Meanwhile, Federation technology helped Earth heal the wounds of centuries of environmental damage. The Federation Council formally recognized Earth as humanity's homeworld, while Earth joined the Federation as an equal partner rather than a colony. Universities on both worlds established exchange programs, with Olivia appointed as the first chancellor of the new Earth Arcturus Cultural Institute. 5 years after first contact, a ceremony was held to mark the official unification of Earth and the Federation. Olivia stood on a stage before representatives of both worlds, with Daniel at her side. They had married 2 years earlier, shortly after Daniel had been appointed as Earth's first ambassador to the Federation Council. Their young daughter played nearby with Earthborn children, all of them part of the first generation who would grow up knowing both worlds. "Our ancestors left to ensure humanity would survive," Olivia said in her address. In doing so, they created 2 distinct branches of the human story. Now those branches have grown back together, stronger for having been apart. She looked out at the crowd, seeing Earth humans and Federation citizens mingling together. Admiral Fowler sat next to General Carter, the 2 military leaders now close friends. Julia Bennett and Alan Mitchell were there too, honored heroes of the battle against the Scourge. And Susan Phillips stood with Ethan Lee, both of them now leading a joint historical project to reconstruct humanity's complete story. After the ceremony, Olivia took her daughter to the observation deck of the new space station orbiting Earth. Together they looked down at the blue planet below and up at the stars above. "That one," Olivia said, pointing to a distant point of light. "That's Arcturus, where I was born. And this," she continued, gesturing to the Earth, "is where our family began, thousands of years ago." Her daughter looked wonderingly at both. "And now we belong to both places?" "Yes," Olivia said with a smile. "We belong to both, and to all the stars in between. That's the gift our ancestors gave us, though they never knew it would happen this way." As they watched, a new Federation ship rose from Earth's surface. Its crew a mix of Earthborn and Federation citizens. It was the first of a new fleet built with the combined knowledge of both civilizations, designed to explore even further into the galaxy. The myth had become reality, and humanity had recovered not just its past, but secured its future among the stars.